Hey, hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining another LeadSquared Roundtable. You may have seen me a few times hosting some of these sessions. I am Shivani. I work for the marketing team at LeadSquared. So today we are discussing the future of online certification and distant learning programs. So lots to learn there. I was told earlier from the team that we're getting a lot of interest from various countries and regions, and they're really interested in the session. So that's a great start for us already. Let me just quickly introduce the panel before we dive ahead. So we have Ms. Kavita, who is the head of marketing and corporate communications at Team Lease. We have Pranav, who is the chief executive officer at Keep Learning. We have Dr. Neeta, who is the director, principal, and head at GD Goenka Global School. We have Mr.
World School, Jessica.
Oh,
World
I
School.
apologize, World School. And we have Mr. Puneet, who is the CGO and co-founder at Bridge Labs. And the host for the day is Anil, who is the assistant vice president at LeadSquared. Just quickly, I will just point out a few key discussion points that you are likely to hear today. We will discuss the trends in courses born out of COVID and the future, of course, for those courses, the post-COVID scenario, the marketing scenario in education, the applicant to students conversion cycles, and we will talk about verification, onboarding, applicant profile evaluation, and more. So really a lot to cover. So I'm going to step away now. Anil, over to you. Please take this ahead.
Thank you so much, Shibani, for organizing this. And I would like to thank the speakers, Neeta ma'am, Punitji, Pranav, Kavita, everybody to kind of coming on this forum and helping us. So I would like to thank the audience also to kind of sparing time and coming us and joining here. I am very excited and I'm sure that this will be very insightful. Uh, so with that, I think the topic today, what we have is basically around online certifications and distance learning program. Now, to kind of start, I would like to kind of throw the question to all my esteemed speaker that from a user perspective, what challenges do we face, let's say, uh, regarding admissions or operational changes which are compared to pre-COVID and now? What challenges do you people feel, let's say, from admission or operational challenges pre-COVID and post-COVID? So I just wanted your views on that. We can start with Puneet ji, Neeta ji, anybody. Uh,
Sure. Look, for us, I mean, we're in I think we're in a different category of business, right? So, pre-COVID for us we were a very different business, right? We were not looking at users specifically in terms of acquisition. We were primarily a B2B business where we used to work with corporates to, kind of match their mandates, right? So that time user acquisition for us was fairly different because it was not a commercial model there, right? But all that said, right, I think pandemic, while it was a trouble for a lot of businesses, right, it was a blessing in disguise for a lot of others, right? And it was a light bulb moment for a lot of companies like ours, where we realized that now scale is not a problem, and now you can kind of look at user acquisition at a much larger scale, right? Because you had no choice but to move out of offline, right? Of course, the moment it becomes online and the user acquisition game changes completely, you need to kind of evolve digital marketing initiatives. You need to come out with programs, come out with initiatives that attract the users to come and look at you, evaluate you, etc. So things obviously changed for us completely drastically. Our business kind of transformed 360 degrees in that sense. So is it challenging? Of course. I mean, the digital is the new play, right? I mean, user acquisition is the name,
Absolutely.
is the name of the game, right? And that's where it all belongs to, right? So it's a supply business today, and you need to ensure that you're able to acquire supply at at a very constant pace. So for us, maybe Kavita and Neeta can add much more to this because they are in that environment where it's an offline school and then suddenly turned online, right? For us, our business was not a B2C business, so to say, right? And so therefore, for us, everything was new. We had to just evolve on our own.
If
Wonderful.
I may,
Thanks, Puneet.
if I may, with your permission, Puneet and the others,
Sure, sure.
um, see the pre-COVID times. were times when there was very regular teaching learning that was happening. When I say regular, even in an international school, uh, I think people tend to become complacent over a period of time. Uh, but when COVID happened, and we knew that we had to evolve, so those who are averse to technology also picked up cudgels, and it was so amazing to see that those who did not know much about technology also tried to learn as much as they could and to contribute as they could. Um, and I would say people were able to upscale their skills immensely. It was an eye opener to see teachers teaching from their homes and at the same time grappling also with whatever a woman generally in an Indian household is struggling with. If you're at home, you are at home, you're expected to also look into a lot of other things apart from the work which is allocated to you professionally. But having said that, I think everyone moved forward, which was really very, very pleasant to see. And those who were falling behind, it was really nice to see that those who could move faster were more than willing to hold hands and to get people to upscale their skills. So the whole environment of teaching learning changed completely. The first few days, I think there was a lot of excitement and everybody trying to use different apps and so on and so forth. So everyone enjoyed it so thoroughly. But over a period of time, there was this cyber fatigue that started to set in. People started getting tired of being in front of the screen for very long hours. Um, Now that we are back to teaching learning, the initial days have been full of excitement. But let me tell you, we are at a point of no return. I can say that with absolute utmost conviction. We are at a point of no return. There is no question that we will go to chalk and talk method at all, ever. Anyways, as an international school, which is teaching the IB and the Cambridge programs, integration of technology into education, technology for education, technology in education is inevitable. But having said that, we are in the hybrid mode. There is no way we can go back completely to the chalk and talk, but it is so joyful to see people interacting, the personal connect that was being missed. Because I think, being online and being closeted inside the homes wreaked havoc with the psyche of a lot of young children and spawning a whole lot of psychological fallouts. Children are suffering from social anxiety. Um, so, and they've gone back by many notches. Also, if in terms of their learning, they have gone back by many degrees. So when I speak to a teacher who's teaching, let us say in KG, she says I have to go over the entire curriculum of grade nursery as well, because they seem to have forgotten what we taught them. But it's like starting all over again. But at the same time, it's exciting because you've come back with new skills that you can now use very effectively, real time in the classrooms. So it's been an exciting journey, frightening but exciting at the same time. That's how I would describe it. Thank you.
So
Perfect.
if you're talking about the admission process, then that's a different ball game, which is very much connected to the marketing techniques and tactics. And if you're talking about the teaching and learning aspect of it, then that is a very different aspect. These two things are like very different. So what
Mm.
Neeta ma'am spoke about was the teaching and learning stuff, and this is a very interesting topic because currently we are doing a research report on the digitalization of the teachers community. We conducted a research 2 years back where more than 80% of the teachers said that they have never used technology at the time during their career for teaching. And now after 2 years, we conducted the same survey across 1,000 teachers, and we are getting insights. I mean, right now the data is a bit raw. I'm just still in the process of connecting it, and we'll be coming out with the report very soon in a week's time. And now the data says that almost 80% of the teachers are very comfortable in teaching technology, and they have learned it on their own. They are comfortable in taking online assessments and all. Now, going back to the question that you asked about the admissions, and also as Puneet said that it's all a game of marketing techniques, which is completely digital, lead nurturing and all of those. And we all have to admit that this current generation, including us and the younger generation, are completely suffering from ADHD. So I mean, when you come, there's a lot of restlessness and there's a lot of anxiety in people. It is very difficult to engage people and keep them hooked on to any one advertisement or any one form of communication. So yes, it has become very difficult to actually generate leads, which are actually capable of getting converted into an actual admission, because kids, parents, all of us, I mean, you have a phone in your hand. Most of the time people are accessing their phone through Facebook or Google, and you run your campaigns on Facebook and Google. They just don't stay beyond 2 seconds, 5 seconds, and they just swipe. So your communication, the audio visual appeal, all of this becomes very important to actually engage your prospect. So yes, while there's a huge possibility of scaling your business, there's also a lot of skilled and creative work that has to go into constructing your communication strategy, how you present it. Static posts are completely out of fashion. People just go through it. So now videos are in. Videos, maybe you cannot have more than like a 5-7 seconds of video, because people will not watch your video for more than that time. Uske baad, if you get a lead into your system, that prospect is not just talking to you. With this online program thing coming in, universities are free to step out of their boundaries and market their programs and market their credibilities across the country. So you have Chandigarh University hammering your phone, you have Jain University, you have Aligarh Muslim University, you have Tamil Nadu Open, you have all these universities hammering. So lead engagement also becomes very important. If you have a very good marketing team and you are able to get that lead into your system, but then that lead is also talking to 10 other people. So your tag becomes very important. Your lead nurturing system becomes very important. So yeah, I mean, this has, while there is an immense possibility of scaling, there's also a lot of competition and a lot of skilled communication strategy that is needed to engage, nurture, and convert.
Absolutely, I agree, Kavita, and thanks you so much for the input. Over to you, Pranav.
So, Anil, I guess your question could be broken down into two parts. The first thing that you asked about was what is the impact that admissions as a whole has had because of the pandemic? And the second is operationally, how universities or schools have adapted to it. The first part of your questions, I don't think admissions were impacted from an operational standpoint of view. We work with a lot of universities today for admissions. And we realized that almost every university today, especially the private players, have been using the digital space for the last 5-6 years. So for them, when it came to admissions, apart from maybe shifting your workforce online and monitoring them online, your sales team, there was really not much of a change in operation. This is what we noticed in most universities. The biggest problem we saw was that parents were reluctant on students going to university, or parents were reluctant on students applying to universities. And I think that's the dip that most universities and schools saw, where parents were uncertain if school is going to happen or university is going to happen. Operationally, I don't think it was a big problem. Is part of your, the answer to your second question, operationally as a school, how people adapted to it. I mean, we have a few customers in the school and university space, and it was hard. It was hard for them because a lot of faculty definitely were not used to coming on a 2D screen, like a video call. I mean, what we understood from most faculty was they have a feel for a classroom, which I think they effectively lost in the online space, right? It's a very static space when you go online versus when you're in a live classroom and you feel the energy of the class. The other thing that most people, forget to realize is that there are hundreds of classes that run in a university a day, right? And there are hundreds of timetable changes that happen. In such a scenario, it's really hard to have a person make about 100, 200 Zoom links. If a class is rescheduled, to make sure to change the link, send it to each individual student in that classroom and make sure they come for class. So I think operationally, from all our customers and people we have seen, it was hell to kind of go, kind of run operations in the online space. And the other thing, like Neeta ma'am and Kavita, I mean, like Neeta ma'am particularly brought up, was that students disengage from classes really fast. The average time we saw students who would keep their camera on for about 2-3 minutes before they would go blank. And as a teacher, you would see 40 blanks on the screen with just initials, and you're teaching a class expecting somebody to be, if classes are two ways, you expect somebody to interact, but you're just seeing a blank screen. So, I mean, hats off firstly to all the teachers and professors who in the pandemic were able to keep classes engaged. And, I mean, I sat in one class and I thought it would be a really hard thing to do. But those are my 2 cents on both the questions you asked.
Yeah, I mean, initially
I think-
continuity was not a problem, but yeah, consistency and quality was a problem. And slowly things are getting evolved with this AI and all of those things.
Yes.
I'm sure that
So-
the quality of teaching will also, but K-12, I'm really not sure. Because the kids are small and probably they need that human interaction and that kind of a teacher-student kind of a relationship to be in class, because they need to socialize with their class. Those are the formative years. So I'm really not sure about how K-12 will react to it, because I have a daughter, and I don't think I would go for an online class if given a choice. I would obviously want to go to school, interact.
So I
That's
think
what
Kavita, my next question
yeah.
will be around that. I think I would agree with what Neeta ma'am, Puneet ji, Pranav, Kavita, you mentioned. I think I do recall that time. It was a complete paradigm that education is shifting from a blackboard to a whiteboard. Now, and for schools also, it was very difficult to kind of adopt to technology and kind of maintain that pace. But I think we have done a wonderful job there.
Yeah.
I don't feel I have a young kid at home, and I don't feel that education or learning was impacted during pandemic. I think there were some distractions for sure that he might run away from the screen.
No, so Anil,
But
there was continuity, but learning was definitely. So if you see that we
so I
had,
think my next question, Kavita, my next question is around that only, and I think I am more than happy that anyone of you can pick it up and start. So how do we feel, or let's say, what do we feel about the efficacy of online versus offline education? And do we see that this is something which can be carried away, or let's say this can be taken away in future also?
Anil, if I may,
Yes,
let me
ma'am.
tell you this. If we compare, talking about the efficacy of the online and offline teaching, I would say both have their advantages and disadvantages. If I talk about online teaching, you could be anywhere, anytime, kind of, create a classroom and a set of children are ready for a class and willing to spend time with their teacher. So anytime, anywhere kind of thing. Moreover, I think there is a lot of interaction, particularly when you're teaching the IB program, a lot of research is needed. So all that research group work can happen very effectively. You may be in different locations, but you will be able to communicate very effectively. Commute time is thing, which is the biggest thing. I mean, I really miss that. Now children are on the roads, and with construction all over, the kind of time that's wasting on the commute time is immense, immense. Okay. So if I talk about the efficacy, now see, those who have a poor attention span have a poor attention span, period. But those who are serious about their study will log in on time, keep their cameras on, may sometimes even keep cameras off, but they are listening nevertheless.
Ma'am,
However,
for a 3 year kid, it's very
sorry?
difficult sometimes to kind of keep him on the screen. He will just run away.
No, see, for the older children,
Yes.
because they are able to take responsibility for their own learning. With the younger children, it's really, really tough to keep them engaged at all points of time. You really have to have a lot of ingenuity. Honestly speaking, I think the teachers who teach the younger students need to have more ingenuity than the ones who teach the older kids. Older children, as I said, can take responsibility for their learning. Younger children cannot, and their attention spans are poor. So, having said that, there is this comfort zone into which people had gone. In fact, now they find it very difficult to come 5 days a week to school to study, because you're spending almost an hour and a half on the road in the morning, another 1.5 hours in the evening. So a lot of that time just goes down the drain, right? So definitely, when they were online, they were missing the personal connect, the human connect. which is very important, particularly amongst the facilitator and the learner. The personal connect is very important because in a class, if you need to have differentiation, teacher has to move around and should know the capacity and capability of each child. So the personal connect is absolutely essential. The children have missed that. And because, as I said, they have been closeted in their rooms and sitting in front of a screen, trying to make connect with their friends and with their teachers. A lot of them, their social skills have taken quite a battering, I must tell you this. They're very awkward. Sometimes they're coming back to their form. Very soon I see that most children will probably come back to their regular form.
And I feel that the kids of today are not going to have the challenges that we had. The kids, this generation is going to have a lot of emotional challenges going forward because they are living in an era where there is a problem of plenty and human relationships are, kind of very, there's a lot of anxiety in human relationships.
Oh, yes.
So,
Oh, yes.
so what is going to happen is that because we are all confined to our phones and tablets, especially the kids, and they don't want to go out to play, and even the school, which is a mandate, if that also became online, then I think we are going ahead in a very dangerous zone where kids will have severe emotional problems because in this digital
Absolutely.
world,
Absolutely.
it's a completely fake world. People are not keen on building and maintaining relationships, so the EQ quotient will go for a toss. I'm so sure that kids of today will not have the kind of unemployment problems because we are not living in an era where a kid can only become a doctor or an engineer. There are immense possibilities. The parents think very differently. There are so many boards. There's this international board where you have this excellent curriculum, and kids will find some way or the other they will sustain themselves. That will not be a problem. The main problem will be the social and the emotional problem, wherein probably we'll become people like US, where the dentist and the psychologist earn the most. So most of us will need therapies, and most of us will be into anxiety or depression. So for that matter, I think the kids need to socialize more. Otherwise, we will all be like the ones in the social dilemma. I'm sure everybody would have seen that Netflix movie where we're all a part of a fake world. And regarding the learning thing, so we came out with a very interesting report last year, which talks about the learning loss that has happened. So we are talking about the continuity. The teachers switched, and hats off to them. At least they could keep the kids engaged. The kids could have a routine wherein they get up in the morning and they sit for their classes and all of that. But there was a humongous learning loss, and India had the biggest learning loss. If you see, so if you look at the mathematics or the English efficiency of a kid, they are far behind than what they used to be. I mean, a eighth grader or a seventh grader who have done their seventh or eighth in the online mode, look at their maths, English basic skills, and the kind of skills they should have actually had when they're in ninth and what they actually have. So there's been a humongous learning loss. So yeah, where there is a huge possibility of scaling up, you can have a lot of amalgamation of good talents because you can have the best teachers around, because anywhere, anytime learning is possible, and you can scale also, and all of that is fine. But face-to-face learning has its own merits, especially for the kids under 16 and 17. Higher education, I think, is still fine, but for the employed learners, for the older learners, is still fine. But I feel, I mean, being a mother of a 14-year-old, I feel that it's still better for kids to socialize.
I agree.
So
Yes.
I can just come in for
So,
a minute.
over to you, Pranav. Any thoughts on the efficacy, or
Yeah,
let's
yeah.
say, which will have more impact,
Sure,
online,
sure, sure.
offline?
I can come into this, but I can speak about it at a larger spectrum in that sense, not just specifically K-12, right? So
Pranav, am I audible?
can you hear
Yeah,
me?
I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. So I think
Can
I
you
just
guys hear
wanted to
me?
hear your views on online versus offline education and its impact.
Actually, yeah, I'll just interrupt you. So I think Puneet was going ahead. Anil, I don't think you can see Puneet. Maybe that is a technical thing, but yeah, Puneet was going ahead with the response. Sorry.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
We
I
can hear you,
can.
Yeah,
Puneet.
we can.
Sure, Pranav, carry on. It's okay. I can continue after you. It's okay. Carry on.
I mean, no, you should go ahead, Puneet. I was waiting. I wanted to listen to what you were going to say.
Sure. So, I was going to talk about this at a larger scheme of things, not specifically to K-12 or to a certain category of learners, so to say. Uh, See, from offline to online, of course, offline has its benefits for sure. There is, peer engagement. There is, one-to-one engagement with the learner and the mentor or whosoever is the, instructor. I think when you move online, the biggest factor that we've witnessed, right, is to ensuring that engagement levels, right, during the course of the program are always met, right? Because unless you're able to engage the learner in the right fashion, the overall impact of the program may not be delivered, right? From a see, we work with a lot of tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 city people, right? From a logistics point of view, right? Our country can have power outages, our country can have internet issues, right? So all that can be a logistical level problem. The way I see this, at least for the category of higher ed or employed learners from that perspective, digital is going to stay, right? It is not going away. Online is going to stay.
Yeah.
There may be an opportunity for some of our businesses like us, for example, to move to a hybrid model where you have a couple of days in the lab and then a couple of days of online. That could be a possibility, but I don't see that happening right away. Because see, businesses have also got used to having the right impact on bottom line while not having physical offices, right? So that's also an important factor, right? Because then you can deliver that value back to the user by cutting that cost, right? So there are all kinds of elements at play. I think online learning is going to stay for a very, very long time.
Yes.
K-12, I am also of the opinion. I have a 3-year-old kid. I don't want him to do online classes. I want him to go to the school, right? And that's what I think most of the parents would believe. Like Kavita rightly said, these kids, we've gone through a very different time. We've played in mud. We've done all kinds of things, right? These kids don't get away from their devices, right? So that's a big problem. I mean, personally, from where I see, that's a big problem. But for the business that we are in, I think online is going to stay for a very, very long time.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
So I mean,
Especially for the.
I'm sorry. Go on, Kavita.
No, I'm done.
Okay, cool. So I've got a bit of a contrarian view to this. I mean, we humans have a tendency of always over-exaggerating and hyper-qualifying any new phenomenon that starts. The start of the pandemic, we saw everybody saying that offices are dead. There's no more physical work. It's all work from home. Now the whole world is going to change, right? And everybody thought that offline work's going to end. 2 years down the line, employers are calling employees back to office. 50% of the workforce is back again in offices. So we humans always said any new phenomenon that comes, we will start saying, okay, online is the future, offline is the future, work from home is the future, living in Mars is the future. But that's really not the case, right? I think there is a gray zone that we need to follow here. There are benefits to both online and offline learning. To go to Puneet's answer, a lot of schools today face the problem of having really good faculty in their locations, right? Your kid could be augmented by a really good teacher who probably sits in another city and learn an online class through him or her while also going to school. So there is a very fine trade-off between, rather than pushing the needle on one side saying it's either online or offline, we truly believe that the future is going to be hybrid, where you can kind of, just like the workspace, where you can separate focused work from collaborative work, there will be a new phenomenon of separating focused learning from collaborative learning. So a model where you can expect students to maybe go to school 2-3 times a week, and then the remaining 2 times of the week they study on their own, is a very feasible and viable model. And I think that's what the world is actually going to move towards in the future, rather than going completely online or offline. Because each, like Neeta ma'am said, which is, and she's a principal, so she would know that sometimes it's like, for example, there are universities that are in very remote locations. Now, would the best faculty come there to teach students? Probably not. The best faculty may have a family in a city, they may have kids in a city. For them, flying down to a remote location may not be the most feasible part. But if you could do part hybrid, and I did put a link in the chat about how UGC said about 40% of all courseware in a degree program can be online. It would be the best of both worlds. You could get the best faculty teaching you partly online, and then the faculty available to you in that location teaching you offline. So I think it's a very crude way to say whether it's offline or online. I think it's well established that everything has its own space. Online is great for an executive who's been working for 20 years and may not have the time to go on an offline location. Hybrid is great for a person who's working with 10 plus years of work ex and is okay with weekend classes. Completely offline is okay for a school kid. So I think the different ways of seeing this question. I don't think you can come off with one answer on it.
Yeah,
So
I think online is the future. In fact, we have moved over online. It's now on site also. I mean, which is like learning by doing. That's the space we are into. So while in classroom, online, on site, this is going to be the right combination going forward. Which is
yes,
already been initiated by UGC now, and that's the picture we are looking at for the future, from now to future.
true. I think welcome Puneet back. Puneet, I think we missed because of connectivity. I think I agree with all of you and the statements that you made. That I also feel that to large extent this will be a hybrid kind of a model wherein online and offline both have to work together. Both are not replaceable. That's what I feel. Considering today's scenario. Now, my next question is around that: what tools and technology are kind of needed today to run this hybrid model? And is our are colleges, universities, schools are they already equipped with these new age tools and technologies, and the employees are also kind of equipped to handle them well? I think the next question is around that. So let's say one tool could be, as Kavita was mentioning, one tool could be, let's say, LeadSquared, right? So similarly, you will have multiple tools, like somebody's using a Zoom or something like that. So there are multiple tools in tech. So I would want to know from you people that what tools in tech kind of you're exposed to, and are these all available for schools, other schools, colleges, universities, and the teachers are also kind of equipped to kind of handle them?
I've got a lot to say on this, but I really don't want to start.
So I think we can hear from Neeta ma'am. Being a principal, I think I'm
Sure,
sure
sure,
she would have faced multiple
sure.
challenges.
Yes, yes. But let me tell you, I think we used essentially, we did not use Zoom. We used
Okay.
Microsoft Teams. And Zoom was also used occasionally for meetings. But essentially, Microsoft tools were used to conduct our classes, and very effectively. And I don't think we really had a problem. Apart from that, that is a time when teachers really went out of their way to show that each one was trying to innovate. So they used a lot of apps, the teachers. But for our regular classes, of course, we used Microsoft tools to be able to hold our classes, and occasionally, of course, Zoom. Um, Definitely. When we had very large groups, we were using Zoom. So, but we really, I haven't faced any problem as such. So even today, when people are resisting because for a long time, if you've been online and you're able to very comfortably meet one another online, we are discouraging our staff, particularly for our meetings, are generally e-meetings. More so if they happen on a Friday or a Saturday, they're all e-meetings. Discourage staff from coming to school for meetings on a Saturday. So it makes perfect sense. I think we were very well equipped, to be very honest, and
So
everyone seems to be quite comfortable.
are
Sorry?
you asking? I'm asking Anil that are you asking that are the universities or schools equipped enough to handle this model of
Yeah,
online learning?
that is also one question. Yes.
Yeah. So
So I basically wanted to know what tools and technologies kind of came into picture. So let's say I have seen, so when I stay in Dwarka and there are a lot of schools around my place. When I pass by, I see a lot of parents while during the time of admissions carrying physical forms, standing at the gate to kind of go in and then submit that form. So that is one process. So wherein, let's say, tools like CRMs and other platforms can come in and help parents to kind of do an online form submission. Then for teaching perspective, you might have used multiple tools, let's say a whiteboard or let's say a Zoom or a Team. But then the question is, are these available with all the schools and colleges
So,
and
so
universities, and are
Anil,
they equipped?
so
Yeah.
are they equipped or not equipped? I mean, there are so many ERP systems. I'm sure Pranav would support that because he's already developing something, he's already selling a product. So obviously there are enough and more products and solutions to handle all of this. There are learning management systems, there are admission management systems, and there are systems which can, take care of your entire learner's
Absolutely.
teaching journey. But the question is whether the school wants to invest in that or not. So I have seen schools who have had a very systematic approach, who have immediately, you know, they continued with this patch arrangement of taking classes on Zoom and all for a while, and then they switched on to a more systematic form of learning and teaching, wherein they looped in a learning management system, examination management system, and all of that in place. But then I've also seen schools who don't want to invest in this because there is an investment needed. So while you're saving cost on your infrastructure, your electricity bills, and all of that, I feel that the schools and universities and colleges must invest in technology. What is there's nothing that you can do without technology nowadays. So I have seen one side of the world who's struggling with all these operational issues, like Pranav said in the that the teachers have these million of links for separate classes. They have to paste these links and they have to make sure that the student logs on to the. And then I have seen schools which have seamlessly logged into a learning management system, and they have successfully been able to reduce these operational hazards. Of course, the teachers will take some time to learn the processes. There has to be training sessions, there are trial and error sessions, but then ultimately it is for the good. So if you ask a question whether the schools are equipped or not, it really is a matter of choice. There are tools available in the market, there are solutions available in the
Absolutely.
market. It depends on the school whether they want to adapt to that or not. And it's the same with the universities also. So I'll tell you, the private universities are very well placed in that matter because they have a lot of financial muscle, they have a lot of technology muscle, and they have very polished staff in the university, wherein the government universities are a little lethargic. They are not very technologically friendly, and they cater to the masses, they don't cater to the classes. So for them it's a little difficult to adopt technology क्योंकि उनको टेक्नोलॉजी से डर लगता है. उनको ऐसा लगता है हम क्या करेंगे. And then there is a lot of lethargy in the staff also. They feel ये LMS आ जाएगा तो मैं कहाँ जाऊंगा, वो जो रजिस्टर में एंट्री करता है, मेरी तो नौकरी गई. तो वो फिर बहुत रेजिस्ट करते हैं टेक्नोलॉजी. So we work at the bottom of the pyramid. We work with these government universities because our purpose is making India employable. और मेरा जो इंडिया है वो bottom of the pyramid में है. मेरा भारत उधर है. मेरा classes is self-sustained and they are very well off. They can go to all the IIMs and they can go to all the private colleges. पर मेरा जो India है, for which I live for the purpose of making India employable, वो मेरा bottom of the pyramid है. वो मेरा ऐसा class है जो government university में it goes. It can only pay a fee of 7,000 a year for a BA or BCom. That's the masses I'm catering to. So the challenge comes from there because these government universities don't want to adopt technology because they are scared. And now that the mandate has come from UGC, they have no other option but to adopt technology. So now they are taking help of the edtech. But I have seen that there is a long cycle of conversion. There's a lot of lethargy from the internal teams, from the academic team, and this and that. So if you ask me whether the universities and colleges and schools are equipped, they have a choice to get themselves equipped. There are enough and more solutions. It's on them whether they want to do it or they don't want to do it. So there was a lot of push during COVID to maintain the continuity, even though the schools successfully managed to gain the continuity in the system of teaching. The universities took a long time because there were a lot of shuffle in the academic cycles. Assessments honge, nahi honge, online honge, offline honge. There was a government SOP that came that there has to be a 30-meter difference between two students, and there has to be this and that. So this was impossible to do. Finally, then the regulation came that don't take assessments, don't take exams. So there's a lot of regulatory cholesterol. People take a long time to decide on things, and even if the government does that, it will give online program licenses to 100 universities. It just made an announcement, but the licenses came only to 10 universities, and the rest of the universities got the license after 1.5 years. So there's a lot of regulatory cholesterol that actually hampers the mobility of this entire thing. Technology is there, companies are there to facilitate, everything is there, but then there is a regulatory cholesterol, there is a lethargy from the universities. So there's all kind of slows down the process.
Thanks, Kavita. I think I have added a new word to the dictionary. The regulatory cholesterol. I agree. I think it is up to the colleges and universities to pick up tech. Any thoughts on that, Puneet, Pranav?
I'd like to hear
Let
from
me ask.
Pranav.
Let me ask a
I
different
think
questions to Kavita, and this is
Pranav
very
is
specific
moving.
to Kavita.
I'd like to
Yeah.
hear from Pranav.
Let me put it this way. I won't blame the schools or the universities. Someone once told me that a good product will be used by everyone. Even my help at home today has an Android phone where he's on TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram. I mean, if you can use an Instagram or Snapchat, he can definitely use this, right? The big problem I have noticed is that most technology companies, and Anil, I'm going to pull LeadSquared also off on this because I
Okay.
use LeadSquared, is that they don't really understand the customer, which is the principal or the teacher or the professor or the director of the university who wants to teach. They don't really understand what their problems are. Coming to a university and saying, "Oh, my product can do this, that," falls on deaf ears because the director or the vice chancellor, the president sitting there would say, "This is not a concern that I have today." Right? They have much bigger problems to solve. And I think a lot of the product companies today need to stop looking at universities and schools from like a 40,000 foot view and go down to ground reality and see what issues they face. A lot of our customers today had this very same problem, which if they had ERPs and they had everything, but nobody realized today for a university that is doing 200 classes, how are they supposed to sanely manage online classes? It's a very simple question nobody asks, but ask the administrator, the IT administrator, the program office about the kind of difficulty they face. So when you come in at that point and say, "Hey, I have a solution for this exact same problem you're facing because we have foreseen it," right? They buy it immediately. Right? The biggest reason today most CRMs like No Paper Forms, LeadSquared, Extra Edge is selling is because the three pillars in every university or school today that a university would buy products on: admissions, operations, and placements. They really don't look at anything else. If you can reduce my cost of acquisition of student and increase the amount of students, if you can reduce my operational cost but increase my quality of teaching, and if you could get my students placed in a good job, any university or school would buy a product. Right? And I think the failure is not from the university side or school side. It predominantly comes from the product, the companies that are selling these products side, because they aren't really going down and understanding how to deal with their customer or what are the pain points that their customer really faces today. So I wouldn't blame. I mean, I have a very contrarian view to what Kavita would say. I wouldn't blame government because this is the same government that's made UIDAI. It's the same government today whose UPI we use. It's the same government whose FASTag system we use. Same government's DigiLocker we use. So there is adoption of IT in the government space. It's just that, unfortunately, in education, I think it's a failure on mine and a lot of product companies side that we aren't able to get them to see the value in what we do. So I mean, I can go on all day on this, but I really don't.
No. So what happens is that there are two things. One is the adaptability issue, and the other is the regulation. Whether the regulation, I mean, I have seen that universities want to adopt online programs, but then the regulation doesn't allow them. So now that the regulation allows them, it takes time for them, because I told you that there is a lethargy at the back end, that if technology comes, 5 of us will lose our jobs. So they try to create problems. So that's there. I mean, we are working with 49 universities, and 50% of those universities are government universities. So I understand that space very well. So I know from where I'm coming from. So the part that you are talking about are the private sectors, where you talk to a group of people and they have a better understanding and they look at things from a revenue point of view, that if I adopt to these systems, I'm able to scale, I'm able to earn. Government people are really not concerned. They're really not concerned. They don't have any target pressures. यूजीसी ग्रांट मिला हुआ है, मैं एक ऐड निकालूंगा 50,000 एडमिशन तो मुझे वैसे ही आ जाने हैं. Because I have these students who will anyway come. Uttarakhand Open University will put out 1 half-page ad. They just have 2 ads in a year: admission opening, admission closing. That's it, and they get 50,000 admissions. That will not happen with a private university. They have to create their other USPs. I have this technology, I have that technology, I have this and that. So they are running it in a very different manner. Their mentality, their thought processes are different. The government thought processes are very different.
Fair enough. I mean, we have a few government customers, but fair enough.
I think the question is such. I think we can go on this one. I have a very specific question for Puneet and Kavita. How do you guys differentiate, let's say, yourself from the other players in the market? Let's say a great learning, upgrad, or the likes of it.
Sure. I can take that. From our business perspective, we are absolutely nothing like any of them, right? See, in any such business, right? So we are a skill to job platform, right? What do we do, right? So we take an engineer, right? So I'll just throw quick statistics at you, right? So our country produces about 1.5 to 2 million engineering graduates every year, right? We are the largest supply pool of engineering talent in the world, right? That's the great part, right? So there's huge supply available for the IT ecosystem. There is enough talent available, right? The unfortunate part is, and this is where the problem is, and this is where we come in, is that less than 1% of these graduating engineers actually go into a deep tech or a development role, and that only happens by the virtue of the college that they pass out from, right? So it's the IITs or triple IITs or BITS and your tier one and tier two colleges, right? Unfortunate part is all the other talent that we have, right? Then the services sector will suck out, a couple of 100,000 engineers, put them through a L&D cycle, put them on the support jobs, maintenance jobs and things like that. About 55 to 60% of this talent essentially is rainwater wasted. You will find engineers doing all kinds of jobs. You will find them in marketing, you will find them in sales, you will find them doing all kinds of jobs, right? Because the fact is, if an engineer doesn't get a tech job within 12 months of passing out of the college, they will pick up any job for the want of a job, right? And that's rainwater wasted. Now, when an engineer, let's say when a learner goes to an upgrad, okay, they go to do a machine learning course. I say, I'm going to upgrade because I want to do a machine learning course that's going to cost me X amount of money. The outcome of that course is a certificate, right? It's a certification. It is not important for an upgrade or for the likes of these companies to ensure that this guy has also got a job in machine learning, right? A
Makes
skill
sense.
acquired, not put to use, is a skill wasted, right? We are a complete differentiator in that game. We walk the talk. We take the engineer from a skilling point of view and ensure that the skill that they've acquired is ending into a gainful employment in that skill. So when an engineer comes to us or a learner comes to us, they don't come to learn a technology. They come for a job. So we run a job guarantee program. We are the only few players in the world that can guarantee, a learner that, if you come to Bridge Labs, I will take you to a job. We've got patent pending algorithms where at a very, very high accuracy rate, I can do matchmaking of an engineer. So today when you go to Naukri.com doesn't care what your job role is, what your JD is, or what CVs are coming. There's a lot of junk will come, right? I can today predict if a learner has spent, let's say, a couple of weeks with me, what kind of a job is best suited and put them up for success. So somebody is good for a development role, somebody is good for a support role, somebody is a good data scientist, for example, a data engineering role, right? We can do that. So we are very, very different from typical edtech, so to say, because we are outcome driven. We marry ourselves to the final deliverability, and a skill in the game remains with the learner till the end of it.
Wow, that's interesting. Over to you, Kavita. I think there are few players who are giving a job guaranteed program in the market. I would agree.
Yeah. So would you want me to take that question as well?
Yeah, I think it was specifically for you and Puneet. Yeah.
Okay. So, like Puneet said, that I would also say that we are Teaching EdTech is a very unique company. It's a learning solutions company. We work towards making India employable. Upgrade and Great Learning. I think you should ask them what they do. I would not want to comment on what they. I know what I do, so I'll tell you what we do. So we
Okay.
work on three levels. We work on prepare, repair, and upgrade. We work on all the three levels of a learner's life journey and life cycle. And I don't think any other company works in that space. So we start from a student when he passes out from 12th and he enters a university. So we collaborate with universities and help universities give very high quality online education to their students. So we prepare the student. Then we have certain interventions wherein we uh, uh, we provide these college students with internships. apprenticeships, which is on the job learning by doing, making them employable, making them ready for the future job markets. Then when they enter the job market, we work with them to make them productive with certain upskilling programs. So we work on 3 stages with a learner right from the time he passes out 12th till the time he's on job, and we keep on working with the learner from time to time to keep him relevant, to keep him productive at the workspace. So that's our education, employability, and continued employability. We work on 3 levels.
Wonderful. I think. Thank you so much, Kavita. I
and
think.
and the and the differentiation is that we work in India, we work at the bottom of the pyramid, we work for Bharat, so we work for the masses.
Okay.
Yeah, so I just want to come in here. So Kavita, brilliant point, right? Working for the masses. So I'll tell you what, right? We are city kids, right? I was born and raised in Delhi, Mumbai. I've stayed across the world in all major cities, right? We are spoiled for choices, right? We've always been spoiled for choices, right? And so that's where the key factor is, right? Work for Bharat. हम भारत के लिए काम करते हैं, right? So we have the same. So we kind of have a social mindset. We've in fact, been invested by the social business, which is one of the top 5 social funds in the world, right? Of let's say a couple of thousand engineers or learners that have gone through our process in the last 5-6 years, I'll tell you about 70 to 80% of them, right, are people who come from tier 3, tier 4, tier 5 cities, right? Sons and daughters of auto rickshaw pullers, farmers, right, rickshaw pullers. Family incomes less than 5 lakhs per annum, right? For them, and it brings a sparkle to their eyes, and makes us sleep peacefully in the night, that we've been able to impact that category of individual, because the fact is no company wants to visit their campus, right? Their campuses are not even known, right? They're so remote that nobody even, they probably, you don't want to add God here, right? But they probably didn't have that opportunity. They didn't have that platform to get to this kind of an employment where they can support family and kind of grow on from there. So about 70 to 80% of the kids that have gone through our process have come from these kind of cities. 50% plus women engineers. Okay, we extremely focus on engineering talent, which is women oriented, diversity, etc. Right. So I completely agree with Kavita on that. We have to impact that piece. The lower layer of the pyramid has to be impacted. Otherwise, people like us, we're anyway spoiled for choices.
Great. I think wonderful inputs from Kavita and Puneet. I think we are almost there on time. Thank you so much for the insights that we have received. I am sure. I think Shivani is here. She'll take it forward from here. Yeah,
Hi.
Shivani.
So I'm here to represent the audience, and the audience has asked questions. So let's take a few up. And also it's visible to all of you. So if you just look at the question tab and the chat tab, you can see what everyone's been saying, and they're all positive, by the way. So yeah, that's good to see. Now I think one of the questions was from Raju, and we got it really early on. Was undergraduate programs, how is the acquisition in online mode progressed? Youngsters would want to go for face-to-face rather than online. Your views? And I see, Pranav, that you've shared responses to a lot of these guys. So thank you so much for multitasking there. So yeah, essentially the question is, I'll just put that up there as well, so you can see.
Just to lighten the moment, Shivani, over the pandemic, we did about 250 webinars. So we understand the pain of taking audience questions and answering them. So it's an old habit of mine.
Sure. No, I like people who are, responding to the audience here as well. There are so many actually. I think now that I look at it, a lot of it is covered, but let me just go with this. Okay, Raju's question. I know about 40% online. We can think of hybrid, but what about fully online program? Will learners at UG level join more online programs?
Is it okay if I take that? That's a very interesting question actually, and I think there's a common misconception nowadays in the world that a university equates to a job. I don't think that's what a university's core function is. In fact, that's the core function of companies like Puneet's, Bridge Labs, which builds the skills for a job, because that's a very volatile market. Skills keep changing. The biggest reason people go to university today is not, it's skewed to a job, but it's actually to discover yourself, to understand your passions, to build a peer group, to kind of live in a bubble for 3 years where you're given the freedom to experiment, whether it's music, whether it's academics, whether it's the creative field, anything. And I think with more people, I think when you talk about a undergraduate program that's going in the online mode, I think that's going to be a terrible disaster. Right? I don't really see why a student would want to do university online. What is the point of that? There are providers like Upgrad and Great Learning that give you 6 to 8 month skills, even Bridge Labs at this point, right? That get you a job in 6 to 8 months. So why would you spend 3 years on a screen online or 4 years on a screen online to just study to prepare for a job? So I think that I know a lot of players are trying this, that they would go completely online and give an undergraduate degree, but I don't really see why that would work. I think there's a big misconception over there, and I'd like probably call one of you to add in or contest.
So I think the sanctity of the degree programs or a degree will not be eliminated anytime soon. You may top it up, or you may add more value to it by adding on the site learning, that is learning by doing, or may top it up. You can change the curriculum, add on more skills that are needed right now, amend the curriculum. But I think the sanctity of a degree program, the signaling value of a degree program is not going to go out of fashion. Regarding upgrade, that's not where Bharat goes. A lakh and a half fee is not somewhere that anybody can afford. So yes, those programs are there. Probably I would send my daughter to university or Columbia. But if I ask my cook, who earns like 25,000 a month, can she send what is the expectation out of graduation program, is something that मेरा बेटा मैंने मेहनत से उसको पढ़ाया है, 3 साल बाद उसका नौकरी लगना चाहिए. I should have more hands to bring bread to the family. So I think the signaling value of the degree program is here to stay. It will not go. The mode might change, but if you say that after 12, for the major part of the India, the signaling value will not go. If you tell me that do you want your children or your friends' children or anybody to not do degree programs after 12, I'll be confused.
Can I add to this?
Yes.
Can I come in? Okay.
Yes, please.
So I've got a little mixed view here, right? So because see, we work with about 1,000 odd companies across the IT ecosystem in India, right? And about 70 to 80% of them are essentially startups, product companies, and then about 20-30% are services sector. Okay. And I'll tell you what we're seeing on the ground today. Okay. We have startups that come to us and tell us that I don't really care. I don't give a damn if the guy is, a 12th pass. Till the time the guy can code, it's okay, because they're not a services business. For them, this talent is an internal facing guy. It's a cost, right? There is futuristic approach that we're seeing in certain categories of companies where they say, it doesn't matter. I don't really care, right? It is already happening in the West. So we work internationally as well. So we've got some customers in the US. It is already happening there. People don't really care if somebody has a degree or not. Till the time they can fit the job, to fit the bill and deliver, that's fine. But again, there is an opposite view to this also, because then, the services sector, the larger, ecosystem in terms of IT sector still will come to you and say, I need a 5'7" guy. I need a 80 kg. His weight should be 80 kg. He has to be 60% all throughout. No gaps in education. He has to be BTech, CSIT. They will come with a wish list of, whatnot. Right?
But do you think wages get affected, Puneet, if you're not?
No, in fact, I'll tell you what. In fact, it's contrary, right? I can't name the clients here, right? So there's a company that we work with. They're one of the best when it comes to technology. Books have been published about them. Okay, they give a starting salary of 7 lakhs to our freshers. Okay, while a very large services sector company gives 3.5 lakhs.
No, freshers means what? Your degree
just out of college, right?
They have done their degree, right?
No. So I'll tell you, right? So if I give a diploma, that's the same company tells me that I don't care if the guy is a graduate or not. It doesn't matter, right? So a fresher by definition is somebody who's got 0 to 6 months experience. That's about it, right? It doesn't matter. So that same company is willing to give 7 to 8 lakhs starting salary to this guy, irrespective of what their education is, if the guy can code. As simple as that. It is changing. The product ecosystem, when you interact with them, right? I'll be very happy to introduce you to certain forums. When you speak to these new age startups, right, and the product ecosystem, also owing to the fact is that, it's a demand heavy market, right? There's no talent available. India has got 4 million lateral engineers. That's about it. Everybody is hunting from them. So technology talent is anyways a problem. So it's also driven by that want that, let's just be innovative. Let's just get guys who can do the job, irrespective of what background they're from.
Yeah, but I think, Puneet, while you're right, the times are changing and the viewpoints are changing. But I think the 60-70% of the crowd, the Indian crowd, they are more into sarkari services and sarkari jobs and more stable jobs, not the startups, right? I mean, you, me, Pranav, we might be very adventurous, because we ourselves are entrepreneurs, so we might think of startups, we might think of that kind of excitement. But those lower middle class families, they will not be very comfortable. Pata nahi ye company kis din band ho jayegi.
But Kavita, just to add,
it makes
I think
sense. I am being very
government
specific to
jobs
the
also.
engineering community.
Times are changing. Maybe we are looking at the future and things have started to change. But where we are right now, I don't see things changing anytime very soon. I mean, as long as we are talking about the degree, the sanctity, and the signaling value of degree.
No, completely agree, Kavita. It's a long journey ahead, right? My only point was that I focused on a very, very particular sector, and I see some trends happening there.
No, with
But
IT,
it's a very long journey. Still a very, very long
with IT,
journey.
I would agree with Puneet. We are moving towards more of a skilled, employable employee instead of a regular degree. So when it comes to coding, I think people generally prefer, even if you don't have a degree, if you're able to
So
code
that's
well.
what the mandate that NEP has come up with. No, so
Yes.
recently it was there. NEP also says that all your degree programs have to have at least 2 to 3 months of internships embedded into your degree programs.
And-
so now the students have a very different set of expectations. So outcome-based learning. Pehle ka outcome was degree has taken so many years to realize to people degree to aa gaya, abhi main iska karun kya? BCom वालों के हाथ में डिग्री हम इसका करूं क्या? Then they go for some multimedia, some computer course, some tally course, some engineering course, and they spend another 1-2 years, spend some more money, and then they're probably employable. So now, outcome-driven learning is about skills.
Okay.
So, Anil, may I just come in here for a minute? I don't.
Yeah.
I know if you're running over time, it's fine. I won't put this.
No,
out
go for
there.
it. Go for it. Go for it. Yeah.
Okay, great. I think the broader question here. I'm sorry, I just wanted to bring this across was more on the university structure, right? So philosophically speaking, a university as a structure has full tenured professors who don't really connect with industry much. Their full-time job. I mean, even your full tenure as a professor in a university, you're primarily looking at academic dissemination. You're not really looking at industry dissemination or industry skills that kind of change, rapidly within every 2 to 3 years. So conceptually, my point here with kind of everyone, what I want to bring across is that using a degree or a university as a measure for getting a job is a terrible idea because they're not built for that. In fact, more university, and they're forced to do that because of the market, but the concept of a university or an institution today is not to get you a job, it's to educate you for your life, right? And your life isn't really a job all the time. It's a lot of other things, being a good citizen, thinking outside the box, honing in on your skills, etc., etc. So this whole, sure. I mean, degree is a great way to filter, and a lot of employers use it because there's nothing better than that. Like today, when I have a degree, as an employer, I am guaranteed by the government that isko kuch to aata hai. Zyada nahi aayega kuch nahi. So it's a filtering mechanism. If there are better ways of assessment, you really may not require a degree for jobs. Like, right? Like let's get that right. Everything is not a job. Like there's some segment that wants a job. We are forgetting students who want to become artists. We're forgetting students who want to become creatives. We're forgetting students who want to be musicians, right? I think the bias here is that everybody thinks everybody wants a job, but that's not true.
Everybody doesn't want a job. Everybody wants to be employed commercially, right? Because you have to run a house also, right? You have to get the dinner on the table also. So even if you want to become an artist and you want to get engaged with with a certain kind of organization to earn your livelihood, or even if you're becoming a freelancer. So yes, skills are very important and artists are very few. So even the artists have to learn, and if they want to get because we all know that something to the likes of artists and all, it becomes completely dependent on the concerts, which are like not fixed. So I have seen many artists who also get employed with an organization, so that unka ek monthly income aata hai, and over and above that they do concerts, because concerts are like very unpredictable, kabhi hai kabhi nahi hai. So how do you run your house? So when you want to get employed with a organization as a music teacher or something, to get a stable, consistent income every month coming in, you again have to be skilled, and you again have to have some certification.
Fair enough. I mean, I'm not going to contest that.
So I come from a family of artists, so I know this space very well. Last 2 years, it was very difficult for artists. They were all sitting at home. No concerts, nothing, no public gatherings.
True.
I think Kavita hit the nail right. It's employability, right? At the end of the day, being employable in whatever profession it is the key. As simple as that. You've got to put the dinner on the table. As simple as that.
On that note, I think I am going to conclude the session. But thank you. This was a super interactive session. I know we couldn't take up some of the questions, but you all can find our panelists on LinkedIn, perhaps. We'll even share the links. Please feel free to reach out to them if you have any further questions. And as we have crossed the time barrier slightly, so that is why I'm putting an end to the discussion. But lovely talking to you all. It reminded me of one of those NDTV debates, but in a good way. Yeah, thank you so much, everyone, and thank you so much for taking the time, Pranav, Puneet, Kavita, and I think Miss Neeta got disconnected, but her as well. And thank you so much, Anil, for hosting the session.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
for your time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.